to do is I want to talk a little bit more about large-scale projects and about our responsibility relative to the world. I want to start out by first saying I'm not a Luddite and I'm not commercially ignorant, but I think it's important. Architects have a job to think big and think about the world in general, and it's been interesting listening to all the amazing technology this morning and how to make retail succeed without considering the urban realm and how we actually transmit our bodies between shops. And I think that that's something where we can think outside of the sort of metaphorical, or in this case, literal box of the shop, and think about that and how that all works together. First of all, I think Tim or somebody had mentioned earlier, oh no, it was the guy from Diesel. We had a great time in our office just asking random questions. So how many of you would have used TripAdvisor or something like it? How many of you would even consider going on a trip without using TripAdvisor to pick a hotel or something like that? Yeah, so we've got pretty good penetration there. Now, how many of you, this is my Facebook page, okay? I am not friends with Eurostar. I have never been friends with Eurostar. I clicked a box at some point. I'm a big fan of Eurostar. But how many of you have written in some social media about a product or service and said that it was good? Interesting. I think right there, what you learn, and it was a very similar uptake in my office, where I think actually maybe the median age is slightly lower than this room. But I was amazed how few people are actually doing that at the moment. So actually 1/2 of that equation is vacant, and you'll see where that leads in a moment. Let's see here. Now I've got this little quote up there. I won't read the whole thing, but at the end of the day, a lot of this internet stuff is noise. It's actually confusing. And the interesting thing is noise has always been present. Jean Art, the artist there who did that piece, he died in 1966. Who knows when he uttered this phrase? In reality, it's all about getting rid of the noise and concentrating on contemplation, meditation, and of course, shopping, which gets us on message here. So actually, I think that retail is going to play an incredibly important role in the future of the world. And we're talking about the future of retail from a very defensive standpoint for those of us who are in the bricks and mortar side of the business. And I think in reality what we need to do, as per the first line, is be a little bit more aggressive in creating environments and shopping places. And I think a lot of what Tim said was exactly right. Create a meaningful place, experience, transaction, make it a positive experience, and we'll have a winner on our hands. Another quote, the future's here, it's just unevenly distributed. I took that picture a couple of weeks ago in Sierra Leone. Kind of interesting, we're building a resort hotel there. It's an amazing place. It was funny when I was there, it felt fantastic. I came back and I looked at the photographs and I thought, wow, kind of rough. It doesn't feel like that when you're there. But the interesting thing is all of those umbrellas are paid for by different mobile phone companies. And here I'm going to be techie for a second. I need to go through this quick so I can get down to my thing. Okay, 68% of Nigerians own a mobile phone. You see the annual revenue represents a significant amount of GDP. I'm skipping countries here just to make a point, but now, Kenya, this is an interesting thing. Earlier, somebody asked a question, what happens when my battery runs out? This is 5 years, uptake of 15, if you've got 41 million people who live in India, 15 million users are now using their mobile phone to move cash around in Kenya, okay? Now, the thing that's important at the bottom, I was so happy I wrote this on there, no phone required. Not everybody has a phone, but everybody has a SIM because it doesn't cost anything. So the answer to the question that was asked earlier was, excuse me, can I borrow your phone? Let me stick my SIM in here, finish that transaction. Okay, thank you, here's your phone back, just in case you've lost battery. No phone required. At the end of the day, the gadgets are just gadgets. It's really about the software. The internet isn't the future of retail, it's part of the future of retail. And this is, in reality, this goes back 100 years' time. The internet Facebook, all of this social media is literally that transactional discussion in the town square or across the fence that says, you know, I got a bad loaf of bread from that bakery. I think I'm going to go to the guy down the road. And in reality, nothing has changed in that time. If you have a good bakery or you have a calf that has a pleasant experience inside, you'll be successful. You'll just be measured by a much greater group, and they'll be able to make an instant decision. The competition is unchanged. It's all about that sense of place. And in reality, I think the technology is going to make people more desirous of that sense of place. This is the obligatory Steve Jobs picture, but I think it says it all. It's not really about the technology, it's about the people. And what we try and do is create places that people like, that reinforce a sense of community. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about what caused the riots, and this is kind of easy. I didn't want to show a picture of a building on fire, so I thought it would be interesting to show a picture of what happened afterwards, because I think there's a really positive message there about communities and people caring about the urban realm. What is the urban realm? It's the streets, it's the cities, and the places all of these shops and all of these businesses plug into, but they seem to be left out of the equation in a certain way. What's happening now? Government is becoming less relevant. In fact, you and the developers in this room are becoming increasingly responsible for the creation of the public realm. The streets and boulevards that link the shops together, the physical shops, are becoming our responsibility. We're designing them with the commercial imperative in mind. This is a critical step change. In a certain way, the ownership of the public realm and the change of the funding of that public realm may be a more important step change than all of the internet gadgets combined. Got a couple of slides in here running around the world. Lab London, this is one of my favorite things. You'll see I've blacked out the names to protect the innocent. The stats are taken from which magazine? I'm sorry, it's some customer satisfaction. I love this. This is about a mile from here on St. John Street. We've got one supermarket chain that is trying to offer a quality experience. We've got another supermarket chain that is pitching themselves as a value experience. The interesting thing about this, and here the stats didn't quite work for me because I wanted it to translate, because I'm a designer, an architect. I wanted to say a bad experience equals bad return and bad customer satisfaction. In fact, that's exactly what it said, but where, interestingly, the one that had the best experience didn't help me, is they're perceived as offering the best value as well. The interesting thing, in addition to that, is the one that scored highest on customer satisfaction is also associated with social issues and the idea that they care a little bit more. And I think that that's critical in the world of social media, is making sure your reputation is spotless and transcends everything. And in reality, you're starting to be judged as a retailer, as a developer, as an architect by things that are beyond your control or beyond what would have previously been part of your concern. And I think that this is critical. I love watching where this is going. Anything the guy on the right can do there, I can do on the internet, okay? The other places where I like to go shopping on Sunday with my wife, because it's a positive experience. This goes back to my public space. This is something we've done in China. I'm just gonna go through it real quick. This is an office retail park in communist socialist China. All of the infrastructure is paid for by the developer. The entire place is designed to be competitive in a highly commercial environment. Very few people realize this. HOK were one of the firms involved in the original master plan for the new West End, looking at the very questions I'm describing to you relative to Oxford and Regent Street, actually considering the commercial implications of quality of space. Some of that stuff is taking place, some of it's still being discussed. Over time, I hesitate to use Oxford Street as an example for anything else in the world. It's clearly unique. But the quality of that experience, I think, clearly reflects on the quality of experience once you go in the shops. And the extension of that branded experience, and in this case, the extension of Brand London or Brand UK, I think is critical in caring for that urban environment. The huge advantage here that Regent Street has is a generally condensed or combined ownership. So that's giving them a little bit more leverage to control the development along that street. I think that the idea that you can actually clean up a major area of urban blight, this was our plan for it, and something's taking place, and thus reinforce the value of the shops occurring along that urban realm is something that is important to be discussed in the realm of cyberspace and all of that. Here's an interesting one. Before I joined HOK, I was involved in the design of Westfield. I always marveled that this was the first project I was ever involved in where the word billion was used. And it's because Westfield, of course, part of their Section 106 was to pay for all that infrastructure. The interesting thing is, I'm sure when the Australians first showed up here, they thought, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. But at the end of the day, you look at the success of that project and the fact that its integration into the transport structure, and the fact that the forecourt and the movement from both of the tube stations, Shepherd's Bush and White City, into that project, the way they're a positive experience, I think that's, in addition to it just being a nice place. Remember, well, the wobbly skylight, that was my idea. You know, I think that infrastructure is making a big difference in the success of those places. And it's controlling that infrastructure and being concerned for what's outside of the box is important. Clients can, architects can plant vines. We never showed a rendering of Westfield, London, when we were describing it, or White City, without the trees in it. That was our idea. It was supposed to be a walk in the park. People like a walk in the park. They like vines. If you can combine a walk in the park with shopping, then that would be fantastic. Sadly, the only part that got dropped was the trees, because commercially the space is too valuable, okay, for commercial pursuits to have trees, but right there when that shop was taken, the trees would make it an infinitely better space. People like better spaces. People like real spaces. Plant life, the idea of a walk in the park, the idea that Westfield is giving back and it's not all commercial is a positive thing that will add value to their brand. Remember this record store, High Fidelity? What's going to replace the record store? This is a critical question. The place where you go hang out and buy things. That is the physical manifestation of everything we've been talking about on the internet. Remember this, the Virgin Megastore? This was the future. Wasn't it going to be fantastic? All your media in one massive store. It would be great. How long did it last? And then I love this picture. This is the greatest picture ever. Look at that. Virgin Megastore goes out, and what's that on the left there? Okay? The new king in town. It's absolutely remarkable. There'll be another king. I'd like to suggest that another king will be, you know, the real experience. Here's another one of these Lab London things. This one's Exmouth Market. Starbucks, consistent, corporate. You always know what you're going to get. Okay? And I'm not going to use, well, consistent mediocrity. Next door, I don't know. I do know because I live near there. Okay? They present themselves well. I would reach the threshold of sweet. I often do. Great pastries if you live around there. I might actually buy my coffee from Starbucks. I love the idea that you can surf for quality in the physical world. Pick and choose. You can sit at either place and enjoy the commerce from either places. Go green. At the end of the day, like I said, you're being held responsible. The profligate users of resource, okay, are the bankers of the future. If you're seen as being wasteful, at some point when the music stops, people will be upset. Advertise. Advertise it. Here's a shopping mall, not the most sustainable thing on the planet. We wanted to hide it. Okay, make it green. Whoops, that went very fast, but probably pretty good. Government policy, I talked about that really quick because I'm running out of time. I'm not from around here, but I understand if you say pants, that's not good. I'm not sure bingo parlors are the answer to the high streets problems. Real quickly, I'll go through this. London Airport, another sort of a competition here. London and Gatwick. Gatwick is the world's largest single runway airport. That's why they have half the traffic of Gatwick. We were charged with dressing it up. I'll explain Thunderbird 2 in a second. How we went about this was we did what we call an experience map. We went back and forth. We drove in a car. We did every aspect of the experience for every possible user. The amazing thing for me was looking at the end user data for Gatwick Airport and me thinking I'm unique, and realizing that everybody of every age and every demographic hates airport seating and the heads touching. It was amazing how often this was mentioned. We developed two schemes, green and blue. Green was looking at the countryside around there, saying, well, could we make the airport feel like a local pub? Wouldn't that be nice? Kind of uniquely English. The other side was the Thunderbirds, one of the highlights of my youth and of English design. We then developed a lot of maquettes here. So you see the top one with the A, or the middle one with the A, that was what I called the Thunderbird scheme, which was going straight for the future. The bottom one, and these are a little bit later developed, was going for kind of a woodsy, warm feel, still within the airport infrastructure. And the ones on top are the dire situation we have today. We looked at the end of the day, we went through all of, because at the end of the day what came out of this was, we kind of like both. Can we do the Thunderbirds thing with wood as well? At the end of the day, and you'll see I got my trees in there, and hopefully they're going to show up at some point. In reality, airports are really about wayfinding. We wanted to make them about comfortable wayfinding. And so we went through and took out all of the visual clutter, added in the warmth from the wood, and identified exactly places where you need to be processed quickly. I think I was talking at lunch. This seems to be working fairly well now. And then get you immediately to a place where you can relax. And at the end of the day, once you've relaxed, it's time to go shopping. And that's, at the end of it, airports are just shopping malls that airplanes pull up to. Thank you.